In this video, we're going to look at the border corner feature in Creative Studio 7.0. The first thing that we want to do is select our patterns. So I have patterns over here in my pattern manager, and you want to select the corner pattern first and then the border pattern. So I'm going to left click on my corner pattern. I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard and left click on the border pattern. Once that is done, I can select the border corner icon at the top of the screen. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, we have a new setup menu that's going to walk us through step by step how to set up our border corner. So in the little picture on the top right, we can see that it has instructed us to click the upper left outer corner using the machine head or the mouse. So I'm going to take my machine head and I'm going to click the upper left outer corner. I'm going to click OK, which can be the bottom right or bottom left key on your keypad. After I've clicked OK, it's going to have me click the upper right outer corner. And as you can see, the little star in the picture has moved to the upper right. It moves with us as we go. So I'm going to move my machine head to the upper right, and I'm going to click OK. Once I've done that, it's going to instruct me to click the lower right outer corner. So I'm going to bring my machine head as close to me as I can, and I'm going to click OK. Okay, and then once that is done, it's going to have me click the lower left outer corner. So I'm going to take my machine head to the lower left, and I'm going to click OK. Now it is important to note that when you're doing your outers and it's asking you for the lower left and the lower right, that you only use what is your quiltable area, okay? You don't have to roll the quilt all the way up to click those pieces. It's just what it can stitch at this time. So now you can see that the instructions have changed, and I'm going to click the upper left inner corner. So I'm going to come into the inner corner, upper left, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go to the upper right inner corner, take my machine head over to the upper right, and click OK. It's going to say click the lower right inner corner. I'm going to take my machine head down to the lower right inner corner and click OK. And go to the lower left inner corner and click OK. Once I've done that, you can see that the patterns have moved into the border corner area, and it's going to instruct me to enter in the border length, okay? So I can find the length section right over here on the right hand side, and I'm going to enter in the total length of my quilt. So I'm going to say that the quilt is 90 inches. Once I've entered in the numbers 90, for instance, I'm going to click enter on the keyboard. Once that is done, if you have enough quiltable area, it will add in additional repeats on the left and on the right hand side of the quilt, as you can see here. Next, we have the ability to change our margins. Okay, so the margin is how far or how close this border corner pattern is going to get to the seam lines. And I can set my corner types. Some patterns, the way they're designed, they have different orientations and different corner types. So if your border corner pattern doesn't pop in just like we see it here, we can come in and change those orientations and those corner types. As you can also see here on the right hand side of our setup, we have little question marks now. Now what that does is if I left click on this question mark, it's going to give me a pop-up window that kind of tells me more or less what is going on in that section. So if I'm having trouble understanding what's going on in that section, I can click on that question mark and it will give me instructions on what to do in that area. I'm going to exit out of this form. Now, before I make any further changes, you can also dynamically change your patterns now in Creative Studio 7.0. And what I mean by that is I have another set of border corner patterns right here in my pattern manager. Yeah, I'm thinking, okay, these patterns on the screen right now, they looked good, but I don't think they're going to work on the quilt. Let me see if I can change them really fast. Well, in past time, you would have to get out of border corner and restart it back up. In Creative Studio 7.0, now all I have to do is left click on another corner pattern, hold Control on my keyboard, and left click on the border pattern, and it's going to input it into my border corner setup that I've already clicked automatically. so I can bounce between the patterns in my pattern manager to find the look that I really like the most before I physically start quilting it. Another good tip to know about the border corner feature is that when you're clicking your points, i.e. the upper left and the upper right corner, as you know, it just makes a straight line between those points. But most of the quilts that we get are never straight. So what I would recommend, after you've changed all your settings and done everything that you need to do in your settings box, you can either click OK to accept the changes that you've made. You can click again to create a whole nother boundary using the upper left, upper right, and lower left, or you can cancel completely out of the function. I liked what I've done, so I'm going to click OK, and that's going to close my setup window. Now I want to create another boundary that is a little more precise to what is on the actual seam line of the quilt. So my boundary is highlighted. You can tell that it's highlighted because it has this little blue shading around it, okay? So I'm going to click delete on my keyboard because I want to delete these boundaries and make some that are a little bit more precise to what's going on the quilt. So I'm going to left click on my inner boundary and delete that out, okay? You can do the same with your outer as well. Normally it's just the inner one that we're having issues with, but you can do the same with your outer and delete that out as well. So I've deleted out my inner boundary, and I'm going to come up to Draw Boundary on my CAD screen, which is right up here at the top. Left click on that, and I'm going to take my machine head and I'm going to click a more precise boundary around the seam line. So I'm just making multiple clicks, probably every 6 to 8 inches, depending on the piecing in the border. And I'm just making my way around the intersection, trying to get a better idea of the border that's on this quilt. So I'm just clicking OK as I move throughout this inner piece. To get a more true idea of what's going on the quilt. Whenever I get to the end, I'm going to hit Close Drawing, and then I'm going to hit Exit Drawing. Now, as you can see on the CAD screen, I have a much more precise idea of what's going on this quilt, and I can come in and make any adjustments if necessary.